Welcome back to Court TV Live. We are on verdict watch in Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp. After more than 100 hours of testimony over 6 weeks, the jury is now deliberating their fate. Now, some of the most compelling testimony has come from those closest to the pair and what they remember of their short-lived marriage. On the second day of testimony, the jury heard from Depp's childhood friend, Issac Baruch. He was entertaining and even emotional at times, and he certainly seemed to leave an impression on the jury. Let's listen.
Mr. Baruch, during your time living at the Eastern Columbia building, did you develop a relationship with the defendant in this case, Ms. Heard?
Yeah.
And did you get along with Ms. Heard?
I loved her. I fell in love with her just like Johnny fell in love with her. They were always loving with each other. They treated each other like gold.
Mr. Baruch, can you describe for the jury the events of the next day, May 22nd, 2016?
Yes. Amber turns to me and she says, Johnny came by last night. He got violent. I say to Amber as I'm walking up, he hit you? And she goes, yeah, he threw a phone at me and hit me. I don't see anything. I don't see a cut, a bruise, swelling, redness. It's just Amber's face.
Mr. Baruch, how do you feel about what Mr. Depp has done for you?
Objection. Well, you know what? No, I'll go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I think that's withdrawn. Go ahead. You can answer the question.
Oh.
How do you feel about everything that Mr. Depp has done for you?
Oh, come on. It's unreal. It's, you know, you think too much about it, you're gonna cry.
Now, you said that on the 22nd that you kissed her on the cheek.
What day?
The 22nd, your birthday?
22nd, Sunday, yes.
Okay. What's your typical way of kissing women when you greet them or say goodbye?
I'm not understanding any of what you just did.
You peck her on the cheek pretty hard every time?
Objection, Your Honor.
No, I'll sustain the objection if you want the next question.
Okay. Did you ever do a two-kiss when you greeted Amber? Two cheeks?
No, I'm not European. I'm from Brooklyn.
All right, let's go to the fake punch. I want to make sure that I understand exactly what you remember seeing.
They're looking at each other, yapping or whatever they're doing, and Whitney goes like this. Pow. Just a fake pow. And then they both start laughing, and then they're just standing there.
And I think you testified already, you're pretty angry with Ms. Heard, right?
When?
I wrote it down that you
about all the phony pictures that were taken and put in tabloids, and about the fake narrative, and about and the way she's trying to got a fraudulent DV claim to extort and blackmail a man. Yeah, that kind of got me
pretty
frustrated, confused, angry, upset. Yes, which is why I said the best thing for us to do is not to talk to each other. So many people have been affected by this malicious lie that she started and she created, and it's gone out the door and around the world. And for Johnny, you know, his family has been completely wrecked by all of this stuff, and it's not fair. It's not right what she did and what happened for so many people to get affected from this. It's insane.
And Mr. Baruch?
How this happened.
Still with us in the Court TV studio here in Atlanta, criminal defense attorney, a law professor from Emory University, Molly Parmer. So we just saw Ike's testimony. It went from really hilarious at times to really sad at times. What did he do for Johnny Depp's case?
I think he did so much for Johnny Depp's case. He was by far one of my favorite witnesses in the trial. And we have to remember that these jurors are getting an instruction that credibility is for them to decide. And oftentimes, when it comes to trial, trials, credibility can hinge on likability and what breadth of emotion you share on the stand. And so someone like Ike, who was able to show both such happiness for his relationship with Johnny and also profound sadness that I think seemed more genuine at times than Amber's sadness on the stand, can really carry the day when it comes to the claim that she is perpetuating a hoax and that he would never do anything like this at all.
And it seems like he provided also a lot of texture and a lot of detail, even the way he talked about Amber and her teeth. Let's listen to that testimony.
Mr. Baruch, during your time living at the Eastern Columbia building, did you develop a relationship with the defendant in this case, Ms. Heard?
Yeah.
And did you get along with Ms. Heard?
I loved her. I fell in love with her just like Johnny fell in love with her. I fell in love with her. She's totally respectful, gracious to me, that she's got great teeth, that she treated me with complete respect. Anytime I walk into the humor-wise, total locker room humor, demented humor, totally laughed at, the jokes, made the jokes, totally got along with her. Every time I walked into their place, Isaac, you want something to eat? Isaac, you want something to drink? Every time. There's only one time I remember that she didn't offer because I walked in and she's in the kitchen at the counter and she's doing a beauty facial mask, and so she can't offer me. And I'm going, hey, is that something that can help me? And she looked at me and she goes, no. And I'm laughing, and then she laughed after because she didn't realize she was making a joke. So. Yeah, I loved her.
I mean, it's incredible the way that he got the whole courtroom to react. I mean, even Amber Heard was cracking a smile. We heard the gallery laugh out loud about the teeth. That's got to do a lot.
And it's such a barometer for the jurors. Oftentimes the jurors, they're in a box, and so they're a bit self-conscious and restrained. They may not react and show their true feelings. So you can kind of check the temperature by those who are watching the trial, and how everybody erupts in laughter and Amber smiles. Ike's likability is sky high.
Now, on the whole, the witnesses that Johnny Depp had from his team as compared to Amber Heard's witnesses, which was stronger?
I have to say, again, Johnny Depp's witnesses, I thought that they were interesting and they had a lot of depth and they were more emotional, but also the substance of what they were able to offer in terms of their relationship with Johnny, that he was a good guy, that he was generous. It all came across incredibly genuinely, and I think that that was really helpful for his presentation of his case in chief.
Yeah, what do you think might have been some weaknesses, particularly on Depp's side? Because it does seem that overall you think that they did a stronger job.
I think when you compare how strong they did in the courtroom with the verdict form, what it comes down to is whether or not these jurors think there was ever any instance of violence between the two of them. And we heard there was some testimony from a counselor that said they engaged in mutual abuse. That could be enough to say that at least one of her statements was not defamatory against him, if they believe that mutual abuse is enough to say that she represented domestic violence. And so that's kind of the rub when you compare how great his lawyers were in the courtroom to what the jurors are looking at in the verdict form.
Yeah, and the verdict form, you pointed out, I mean, it is very detailed, and it may be confusing to a lot of lay people. Do you have concerns about that?
I do somewhat, but I also am curious about the makeup of the jury, and we know it's a lot of young men that we believe to be in their 20s and 30s. DC, the Fairfax area, it's a lot of universities. I think it's a fairly educated jury, and I think they are being thorough.
Okay, and that said, one of the issues that we've discussed here on Court TV, including with you, Molly, are kind of the varying legal standards, even for elements of defamation itself. So I want to kind of get into that a little bit. So when we're talking about defamation, of course, we have to, prove, the plaintiff has to prove it was a false statement, right? And it was published, et cetera, et cetera. But this whole actual malice component, what's involved in that? And then what's the burden of proof associated with that?
Right. When it comes to the defamation claims, the jury is instructed instructed that they just go by the greater weight of the evidence. So like 51%, a preponderance. So if these jurors are intellectual and able to kind of break that down and comprehend it, it's not that difficult to prove, right? But then you get to the latter component of these claims where you have to prove by clear and convincing evidence, a higher burden, that this was done maliciously. And so I wonder if these more cerebral jurors are going to get there and say, you know what, I don't know if I can say that it's true that this was done maliciously with clear and convincing evidence. They might get hung up on that latter part.
And you know, we were discussing off camera, Amber Heard's counterclaim of $100 million for defamation is based largely on the statements of Depp's former attorney. You think that there could be some issues with proving that those were malicious statements?
Right, exactly. And I think at the end of the day, what jurors do in civil cases, after they get to a point where they've answered yes, this was defamatory and it was done with malice, then it's just opened up to them. What do you think is fair in terms of compensatory damages to make the victim whole, or punitive to punish? And we could see any kind of numbers in those boxes.
It's very interesting because in this case, in the state of Virginia, in a civil case with this amount of damages, it has to be a unanimous verdict, and it's a 7-person panel that we're talking about. So do you think that, you know, this could possibly end up with a hung jury?
I guess it could. I mean, anything is possible at this point with this wild trial. But yes, that is a requirement. You don't just have findings where the majority feels a certain way. All 7 of these individuals in that deliberation room have to be on the same page for everything.
And that is a lot to ask for.